Awesome. Well, first off, hello everyone. My name's Devin. I am from the Geyser protocol, so I'm one of the founders and lead developers over there. With me today have Alex Jeb, also from the Geyser team, who runs biz dev, operations, all the glue that keeps the ship running. And then also who's going to be jumping on to chat a bit is Alex from the UMA team, and he's going to talk a little bit about Kpi Options, give some info on the latest updates, and then we'll all actually chat together a bit about really what we're here for today, which is a integration between the Geyser and UMA sides for streaming Kpi options. There's a few different parts of that to unpack, and we'll get into it today. Talk about the pattern, talk about some of the benefits, and also hopefully get into some good conversation about use cases that fit nicely for this pattern, and do a little bit of identification on some potential candidates, some cool things we could roll out, and just start to brainstorm and open it up. So first, I want to do a little bit of an intro on Geyser, independent of UMA, some of the core tech we have available and what we've been building. So for those that don't know, Geyser is an open platform for incentives. So what that means to us is a tooling layer. We want to make it extremely easy for builders to launch new incentive systems, to motivate good behavior, and to generally get the community involved in their protocol in a way that benefits everyone. We look, more generally as a statement, we think that across Web3 and crypto, there's a pretty large gap in tooling and those reusable building blocks that folks can pull off the shelf. Creating those is important. It's important for safety. It's important for speed of development. It's important for consensus and interoperability. So we aim to be that layer for incentives and token distribution. What I have pulled up right now is our documents, our documentation. Some info here on some of the benefits to projects and users. I just talked over most of this, but this is a reference that folks can turn back to if they ever want to learn more. For users, so I think I just talked a bit from the project perspective. You don't want to reinvent the wheel. From the user perspective, we're a bit of a discovery platform. So all of the projects and tools and distribution mechanisms that launch through Geyser are all indexed in a single subgraph, and they're searchable by in a few different interesting ways based on the size of opportunity you're looking for, based on the token types, based on the different mechanics that we use for setting up incentive systems. And as a user, I can sleep a little bit easier knowing that I'm using a platform that I've used before, or it's a battle-tested platform that has been audited, and all those contracts are coming from a known source, rather than jumping between farms and pool twos and taking on risks of completely new developers every single time. All right, so that's a very high-level overview. What I want to do next is talk a little bit about use cases. So the overall experience for, let me jump over here actually. We have videos, and I won't play them right now, but we have nice demo videos of the full end-to-end on the website for actually looking at click by click what the process looks like. It is totally zero code. You can launch a pool in a few minutes, get it configured, and have it immediately available live for users. All the management is done through here. You can set up new funding schedules and just start streaming rewards to motivate activities. So I'm going to talk a little bit about different use cases that we commonly see. So this use cases page is really high level. Underneath the hood, to set up any of these different things, you would have some recommended configurations. You might be, one of the classic examples we always see is liquidity mining, right? The staking token that a project's going to use would be some LP token for Uniswap or SushiSwap, or it even could be a lending pool that you want to motivate increase liquidity on for better efficiency. Token distribution is another big one. So I think that one of the challenges that we often see with projects launching in the Web3 space is that conflict between transparent distribution and being community first versus having a tightly controlled centralized organization that owns a lot of tokens. By setting up these a pool that's going to vest and distribute tokens over time, you have a much more transparent and fair distribution mechanism that anyone can participate in. There's no backdoors. You can't pull tokens out, and you can set up your token distribution in a way that's fair and accessible to all. Another cool feature, we actually recently introduced NFT staking. So I won't go too into the weeds, but the way our system works is that we basically have implemented a modular pool architecture, which means, imagine assembling Legos or puzzle pieces with where you can swap in the staking side and the reward side as little building blocks and create an overall mechanism. So we're talking about trying to be the building block and the common tooling for crypto on the incentive side, but our building blocks are also made up of building blocks. So to be flexible, you can swap in different types of staking and rewards to really customize the incentive mechanism you want. So a new thing that we launched by leveraging this architecture is NFT staking. So traditionally, most staking use cases, you're putting in an ERC20, whether that be an LP or a governance token. But we can also launch all of the same pool types now using NFT staking. So let's say you were using a governance NFT for voting. You could actually very easily set up an incentive system around that now by configuring a pool, pointing at the NFT, and streaming rewards to your users based on, it could be from some set allocation, it could be from protocol fee distribution. There are a lot of ways that you can get creative with it for different use cases. I won't spend too much time going through this page because I definitely want to get to more of an open conversation. But we've seen Geyser pools used for vesting. I just mentioned governance rewards for both ERC20s and 721s. Two other cool patterns. So, and this is the last one's getting to what we're here for today, but we do support Uniswap v3 liquidity mining using Arrakis or the Gelato spinoff. We can, we support pricing and APR estimation of those Arrakis LP tokens. So it's a really easy way to spin up, honestly, what's a complicated problem. Incentivizing liquidity on fungible positions is hard to do. And by combining the zero code platforms at Arrakis and at Geyser, you can get a whole end-to-end solution live in a few minutes. And most excitingly, Kpi Options streaming. So we've been working with Uma on this for a little while. It's been almost probably 8 months that we've been talking about it. And one of the benefits, as I mentioned, for a configuration of different token types is that those tokens don't have to mean direct value. For example, that streamed reward token could be a KPI option. So what that lets you do is basically implement another metric or another KPI that you're interested in seeing your community or your token holders push towards, or you think that they can affect positive change on, to give you another lever to tweak on that overall decentralized incentive mechanism. After we go through some of the UMA stuff, I'll pull up some more charts and diagrams and what this looks like. But it's a really, really cool and customizable pattern whereby you can target a relevant demographic or community member based on what the token type is. And also, given that demographic that you're using for incentives or that's going to be participating, say, oh, well, we actually think that they're in a good position to affect change on TVL or on Twitter followers or things like that. So we'll talk a bit more about that shortly. One other thing I want to mention before I hand it over to Alex is ecosystem integrations. So we think that even beyond providing the core tooling, one of the huge places that we can provide a lot of value, and you probably could have guessed this by nature of this call, is integrations with partners and with the other parts of the ecosystem. Ideally, when you launch your incentive program on Geyser, for free, you would get plugged into all of these different parts of Web3 without having to do that integration work yourself. I already mentioned the subgraph. Every single pool that launches on Geyser is automatically indexed and tracked, and we give you all the metrics and stuff. So not only does that show up in our web app, but you can use that to easily pull and expose metrics in your own web apps. This one's been a huge point of effort recently, is snapshot integrations. So I think the last time we had a similar call like this, we might have had this first one in place, the Geyser staking balance integration. But in the last quarter, we rolled out 2 new integrations for LP staking balance and pending rewards. So what you could do, for example, is if you had a governance system set up where you were streaming rewards incentives or governance incentives to your token holders through a pool, those token holders that are staked are still fully able to participate in governance by using one of these strategies. You just point it at a Geyser pool, and Snapshot will include the votes for those users. And newly, we have a pool that automatically, or a strategy that automatically computes the underlying governance balance for your LP staking tokens, which is a really nice, inclusive way to get your LPs, who can sometimes be mercenary, as we all know, involved in like the productive decision making and the governance of your project. So another way to align incentives. And then this last one here is pending rewards. So previously, you would have had to claim rewards from a pool before you could use those tokens towards voting. But now you can actually consider those pending rewards in a snapshot vote. So that's a new powerful convenience feature for our users. A few more here. Won't go through them. They're pretty obvious. We have tracking set up for DBank for any pools that are launched on Geyser, and we let projects control their pool through a Gnosis safe multisig. I'll take a breath there. Pause for any questions on the Geyser side, and then I'll let Alex take over and talk a little bit about some of the Kpi options updates.
Hey, thanks, Devin. I had one question.
Please.
Are you just on mainnet, or are you on layer 2s now? Other chains?
Good question. So we are on mainnet, we are on Polygon, and we're on Optimism.
Any ideas when and if you're going to be on Arbitrum?
We've talked about that one quite a bit. I will say, without committing to a hard timeline, it's definitely on our short-ish term roadmap. Honestly, the main thing holding us from launching right now is that we're in the middle of some pretty major core protocol updates, so we want to finish that up before we do another deployment, just to save dev cycles. But it's definitely something that we are keen on doing soon.
Sure, thanks.
Do you see a lot of use cases from your side on Arbitrum?
I think most projects are on Arbitrum more than Optimism, I think. I've not had that much experience apart from bridging things using...
Yeah. That makes sense.
maybe,
Arbitrum's had some great traction recently.
Yeah, and Devin, another thing is they have a lot of great NFT projects. They have like Treasure DAO, which, man, if we could get them on board with something, that would be awesome. There's actually, a lot of I think there's a lot of good opportunities with some of these NFT platforms on Arbitrum, especially now that OpenSea just launched on Arbitrum.
True.
Yeah.
That's a good point. That's good feedback. We'll keep that in mind. Maybe put a little more fire under the effort.
Yeah, I just see a lot more opportunity right now with Arbitrum than I do Optimism. Plus the fact that they don't even have their token yet. You've got that carrot you can wave, and so anyway, yeah, that's just my opinions.
Yeah, good points. Cool. Beyond network deployments, any other questions on some of the core Geyser tech? Otherwise, happy to hand it over. Cool. I will stop sharing for a second, and Alex, I'll kick it over to you.
Hey everyone, I feel like I know a lot of people in here, but I mean, I'm Alex. If people don't know, I On the risk lab side, do a lot of work with integrations, outcome-related integrations, Kpi options, and recently doing a lot of work with the optimistic governor. Yeah, I mean, when I was like talking with Devin, we thought it'd be a good idea just to jump in, kind of talk where we're recently at with Kpi options, and kind of, I think for me, like, it's really exciting when we talk about like this collaboration with Geyser, because of kind of our focus right now in like scaling Kpi options. Some people have in here like Deadcoin and some others have worked on like implementation docs for Kpi options and know some of the pain points and how much work it can actually be involved with deploying some of these contracts. So like maybe a month or two ago, we decided to focus on, instead of choosing specific like bespoke implementations for teams, to kind of focus more on like these standardized implementations. And the first two we chose were Subgraph and DeFi Llama. So what this allows us to do is essentially, instead of writing out an implementation for every single Kpi option, you're basically just filling out a few parameters that go into the ancillary data, and you're not required to actually write out a new implementation. And I think for the people that have worked on the implementations, it's exciting, because some of these take they can take days, and they're really heavy on the review process. So I think where I'm really excited is we could essentially cut this down from days to just however long it takes for a team to input a few parameters into a UI, which, I mean, 15-30 minutes to actually deploy a Kpi option, which I think is really exciting. The first team to actually use one of these standardized implementations was Idle. They used the Subgraph implementation. If anyone wants to go and look at like the ancillary data and kind of compare it with the implementation doc in the UMIP repo, it's a pretty cool it's a pretty cool contract. And like working on it, like we didn't have to write an implementation for it. We really just used input the ancillary data, and it's I don't know, it really showed how much quicker this process was. And I again, like, I'm really excited about like hearing like a collaboration with Geyser, because of we're able to like inherit a lot of their really cool features, and like focusing, like, I mean, streaming Kpi options, and like their deployment process is so smooth, and it allows us to like at Risk Labs to focus on like scaling like the actual deployment, and working on really making it as seamless in terms of like settling contracts and the whole dispute process. So like really making the Oracle as robust and flexible as possible. And like, yeah, I mean, collaborating with Geyser, we can do a lot of really cool stuff there. So I'm personally really excited about this. And yeah, I mean, I know I went through a lot, so if anyone has any questions on kind of like, yeah, any UMA KPI specific stuff, yeah, let me know.
Sweet. Thanks, Alex. I have a quick question. So you mentioned subgraphs. I know that's like a very, very flexible system for different projects. Do you have to use your own subgraph, or can you just consume any subgraph that already exists for these KPIs?
Yeah, it's really flexible to use any existing subgraph. So it does not have to be yours. There's also and I think we'll continue to iterate, but like there's some really cool aggregation features in the implementation where you can do like a weighted or TWAP or so like
nice.
you're not even limited to like a specific like one query endpoint. So like I think and so yeah, you could definitely as a team, if you didn't even have a subgraph, but like you had like a Uniswap pool or something, yeah, you could absolutely use that Uniswap pool and not necessarily even need to like create your own.
That's awesome. Sweet.
And
yeah, go ahead.
The other thing is just like once we have this subgraph like implementation, I mean we already have it, but like it's not going to be too difficult to like port this over and use any API endpoint as well. I think that probably that's the next step, so that like any type of API endpoint will be able to be used and consumed as well. So like I think that's gonna be really cool, because I mean having any subgraph, API endpoint, or DeFi Llama adapter being able to be used with Kpi Options and not having to create any new implementations, I think is just that a lot of the past contracts have fallen in those three buckets. And then I think like if new stuff comes along, we could always do another standardized implementation. But I really do think that like that's over 90% of kind of what we've seen in the past, and probably what we'll even see in the future.
That's awesome. That's huge for scale. I think like that's one of the, Alex already mentioned this, but one of the things we're so excited about with working together is just getting these tools into a lot of folks' hands. Because it's really cool to be able to do the thing, but it's even cooler when you can have, hundreds of projects doing the thing. And that's what we're hoping to do here.
Yeah, absolutely. And then like just, for UMA to be able to like, continue focusing on Oracle and making these even like these standardized implementations even better. And then to have like Geyser be doing like the streamable KPI options, and you guys have such a great deployment process. I think it's just like, I mean, it's exciting from both team standpoints, because you're able to focus on things you're good at, and it's benefiting both teams.
Yeah, absolutely. Awesome. Any other questions for Alex? Otherwise, I can jump into what we're talking about and show a little bit of screenshots and some architectural details on this integration. Sweet, let's do it. All right. So integration. We already gave a little bit of an overview on each of these things, and I can share some of these articles after the call as well for folks that want to dig deeper. But the article starts off with the introduction that Alex and I just gave. So the integration itself. So this is a screenshot of a Geyser pool running live. Well, it was live on Coven last week, but we are migrating to Girly testnet this week. So that demo, we'll get a new demo up with this pattern that folks can play with since Coven was just deprecated. So here's an example. So in this pool configuration, you can see that we set up STK, which is some arbitrary staking token, as that token that users would bring, and we would hope is representative of a community of people that are involved with the project. Then on the reward side, instead of just streaming token or TKN, we're streaming the DeFi TVL with a specific expiry. And this was, an example we used in the demo, but again, like Alex was mentioning, that token can be almost anything now, or that metric can be almost anything now. Very easily, you can plug in a subgraph, and that's by the way, as an aside, just to harp on how exciting that is. That subgraph pattern we're going to try to use with everyone. We think that's like a way you can grab metrics for almost, in theory, any project should be tracking their most important metrics in their subgraph. So we think it's an awesome way to get started really quickly and easily. So what happens is, you bring your tokens to the pool. You are staked and in theory participating in governance, helping out with those metrics and helping to promote, that pattern or promote, project growth. And you get streamed tokens over time, but you're getting streamed the long option of that KPI option. Pattern lets you do two things. So you're simultaneously basically getting a two-pronged approach towards incentives. You're incentivizing whatever that staking action is, and then you're incentivizing whatever the KPI is. So it gives you a lot more control over the overall mechanism. As an example, it could be incentivizing DEX liquidity and also protocol TVL via the KPI option. So here is what the overall flow looks like. So first, you would have the creator come in and deposit reward token into that UMA KPI option. That's going to be the point where they're configuring the KPI of interest, setting those ranges for payouts, and actually defining the expiry date for what our goals are for that metric. Then we come over to the Geyser side and we set up the pool itself. So the reward module would be configured to actually stream that KPI option, and that's it. So the the creator has KPI options. They fund that reward module for, let's say, let's say, what's the date? It's almost end of September. We wanted to do an end of year KPI. We might set up a 90-day pool starting right now, and have that last through mid-December. Then that would be a totally trustless, continuous stream of KPI options to your staking community. And it's really nice how that scales, by the way. I think that one of the challenges with getting tokens out to the community is that it's very manual. It's a lot of work to understand and gauge who those tokens would be best in hands with. But by using a decentralized streaming approach like this, we can just target an entire community of LP providers or of governance participants and get it out into their hands in a totally trustless manner. So that staking activity goes on over the duration of the funding schedule. One thing to note is that you can actually set up multiple funding schedules in parallel. So we oftentimes see projects set up continuous fundings over time, and they never have to move users from pool to pool. They can add more, say, governance token rewards after the first funding schedule is expired, or in parallel if they just want to increase the rate. It's very flexible on that front. Then once all is said and done, rewards have been streamed, and there's no hard lock here. If users wanted to opt out of the KPI program halfway through, they could claim what they have and then good and hold those tokens until it's time to redeem. So final payout, you have the the user that just received those KPI options, bringing them back to the contract to redeem, or to claim their earned collateral, and then the actual reward token is sent to their wallet. So we have some steps on getting started, how to configure things, some links to documentation, but obviously more so, we're happy to chat and provide support. I think that this is a really powerful pattern, and as Alex was just mentioning, both teams are super excited about it. So what we'd love to do is, for folks on this call, I guess a couple things. First, I want to open it up in a second to hear any use case ideas for folks to ask questions or just brainstorm. Number two, I think we'd love to work with the community on sourcing leads. Any projects that that might be interested in this kind of pattern could benefit from KPI options or from streaming those KPI options to a particular set of users. Let's talk to them. We're always happy to jump on a call and understand their needs more and brainstorm solutions. Then finally, as a little side bonus, we are on the Geyser side hosting biz dev referral bounties through DWork. So any leads or ideas or referrals that come through this engagement right now with the UMA Kpi Options streaming, you'd certainly qualify for those BizDev payouts. With that, I'll pause and open it up for any questions or ideas.
Sounds awesome, Devin. Is there like a minimum amount that a project should be looking at to use this system? Have you thought about that?
I don't think so. I think it probably comes down to a effort in gas cost per amount. Like, don't get me wrong, if you're only talking about streaming a few $100s worth of rewards, even just the messaging effort and the gas cost of having an extra claim in there might not be worth it. But I think that even
this is on Polygon as well, right?
Yeah, exactly. So you can ignore gas cost for that comment. I think it's Alex, I don't know if you have any concerns. I feel like even for
I don't have any concerns. I was just thinking in terms of the Superman DAO that we could explore.
Yeah, would love to help talk through that pattern.
Needs a bit of thinking about.
Sure.
The other thing as well, I've been talking to an IT college, but the problem is that they're in Russia. And things have been on hold, but they're thinking of going international as well. And this is rewarding students. They've got their own kind of tokens that they use as a college. It's not crypto, it's their own kind of internal currency. But we're looking at ways how to reward the students at each step. So instead of getting these college tokens, they would get these crypto, these KPIs, which they can then redeem at the end of the course. So that's one idea, possibly.
Yeah, that's interesting. Almost like you could even set up a KPI that ties to like performance and coursework. And
absolutely.
Like overall score on a test across the students.
Yeah,
that's interesting.
As well as attendance as well.
Yeah. Give out like attendance shares and have that be your staking token, and then the actual KPI option would be tied to some payout with respect to grade performance.
Indeed, yeah. But
interesting.
This is so flexible. There's so many applications to this.
Yeah,
so
it's awesome.
I'm keen to hear other people as well. Cool.
Can this be streamed out in more than just one? Is it like, covers everybody gets the same amount, or it can be delved out in like tiers?
Yeah, so I guess there are two ways to do it. It's proportional to the amount of shares that you stake. So if everyone has a single NFT or a single ERC20 that represents like your governance, it would all be equal. What you could do is if you had, let's say, like 3 tiers of NFTs for different governance weighting, all you do in that case you'd be set up 3 different pools. So those 3 different pools, you can basically limit the number of users and the total number of tokens staked, because there's a limited supply of each of those governance tiers. But then you stream the exact same KPI options just at different rates to each pool. So there are definitely ways you can customize like a multi-tiered approach.
Gotcha. And then I had one more question just for like if a DAO or somebody wanted to use this, how at the end, they can get their what they have left back when they turn in the short tokens. Would that be done through UMA then, where they could turn in and get their collateral back that was unused?
Exactly. Yeah, like you wouldn't even you would just hold the short tokens. You wouldn't even fund those.
Right. Yeah. Just for turning them back in, though. Okay.
Exactly.
Cool. Oh, awesome.
Cool. Good questions. One other cool pattern that I think we're pretty excited about that I'll mention just in case it spurs some ideas is I've mentioned governance a couple times. I think that's a big one. A lot of times in a lot of systems we'll set up governance where you just get rewarded for being staked or for voting or just for holding the governance token. I think that using a governance reward mechanism like this, where you're not streaming the raw token or raw rewards, instead you're streaming KPI option that's tied to some specific metric, it just makes like your voting decisions so much more directed and explicit. It's almost like, you know, you're defining a reward function for what we want to do as a DAO. It's hard to vote. Like when you're voting in an open governance system and there's no like explicit metrics or clear direction, it's hard to think through exactly how every single vote I make is going to impact the direction, you know, of the organization. When you have explicit metrics front of mind, it suddenly gives you a bit of a North Star for what you should be driving and what you should be caring about at the end of the day. So I think it's such like a healthier pattern for long-term growth of a DAO.
But is this still in beta, or if there was a project that wanted to go ahead and use it?
We could go live. Yeah, we could get a project live this afternoon if we find someone ready to go.
Awesome.
Alex, do you have any meetings, or are we open to start shipping stuff today?
Yeah, I can cancel everything else.
Right.
Yeah, I really am excited. I mean, the snapshot I think is cool. I think, I don't know, I'm always, there's just so much noise into like to be able to incentivize votes on snapshot is really cool. So are teams using it right now, or like kind of what is the status? And also does it support like, oh yeah, so you could support like the NFT staking, yep, LP tokens, kind of anything?
Yeah, exactly. So any staking token. We actually don't have any projects live right now that are streaming KPI options. So would love to get a couple patterns up and get some use cases out the door. But yeah, from a staking perspective, we can point at a bunch of different projects that are, if anyone wants to see live examples on Polygon and mainnet, we can point at projects that are, you know, have similar staking sides set up to what we've discussed and have similar snapshot strategies set up as what we've discussed. And then basically the big change would be on the reward side that we're streaming a KPI option instead.
Got it.
Yeah. And of course we'll have that testnet demo back live in the next few days, so we can pass that around too for anyone that wants to try it out themselves or use it as a, you know, little bit demo sandbox.
So you guys wrote the like snapshot strategies, yeah, that will be used?
Exactly.
Oh, cool. All right, I'll go look at those.
Yeah. We technically have 3 different strategies for snapshot now. One of them is just staking balance. It's an easy way to account for that in your vote tallies. Another new one is pending rewards, which uses we have like a set of auxiliary libraries for providing more information about pools. It consumes those. And then that last one is a more niche one for LP tokens, but we have so many Uniswap V2 or derivative use cases that just provides a really convenient way for projects to do that like coefficient math for the underlying governance token automatically.
Yeah, I would love to get to the point of projects using the optimistic governor,
right,
with the snapshot Geyser strategy. I mean, streaming KPI options. Wow, it's really cool. Exciting.
Yeah, absolutely.
Real quick, guys, like I had brought this up to Devin, and I'll bring it up again just so the rest of the group can hear and I can kind of put him on blast. But I had suggested maybe a month or so ago, if there was any way that we could feature as Devin said, nobody's running these. Nobody has minted KPI options on Geyser. I was thinking, man, that would be a cool thing that we could showcase as a use case if we had some extra Geyser tokens and maybe something to incentivize. So just wanted to keep that in mind as something that,
yeah, definitely.
if we could find something.
Yeah, that's something we've talked quite a bit about, actually. For I guess, like, just for the sake of the design conversation, for us, I think probably the most important metric is rewards volume. That's something that we already track in our subgraph, so it'd be pretty easy to set up. So we've been taking a look at what the right audience would be, the right staking community to stream those to. That's definitely on the radar. So we consider that a use case to track and follow up from a biz dev side.
Step forward. Thanks, Devin.
Yeah, for sure. As we're talking through this, any other use cases or DAOs come to mind? And you don't have to, throw out leads or ideas publicly. Feel free to DM me as well. Always happy to have conversations and jump on the phone.
I was thinking that those projects that already use KPI options, there could be warm leads.
Yep.
And this could be like a new way for them to distribute KPI options. So it might be worthwhile to just go through and find out all the different projects.
Right.
And there's quite a few of the superhumans here that have gone out to these projects and have relationships already. So like Poopster, for example. So warm leads are better than cold leads, right? So
Definitely.
that they could be interested in this. What do you think, Poopster?
I think there's lots of things we could explore, but I'd always lean to agreeing with you.
Yeah, I think that's a good point. From our side, we're doing the same thing. Our warm leads are folks that are already using Geyser, but streaming, raw governance tokens. So we actually started, a few days ago, just a cycle of reaching out to all the projects that are already on the Geyser platform and letting them know that for their next round of rewards or incentives, these KPI options are a good new capability that we can offer. Cool. Any other general questions? Otherwise, I just want to thank everyone for the time and for listening and brainstorming with us.
Yeah, just about the NFT staking. How does that work?
So basically, it's a drop-in replacement for the ERC20 staking module. From a shares perspective, meaning the amount of rewards you actually get, it's fungible, for lack of a better term. Every NFT that you stake, you can stake as many as you want, is worth the same number or the same amount from that collection. There's no rarity involved, but it's not.
Okay, so you couldn't have different kind of value
at this point.
Okay.
The challenge, and we looked at creative ways to implement it. The challenge is just that those attributes aren't on chain, so you have to do some kind of roundabout stuff to get that data on chain. And that definitely broke a lot of the generality of the solution.
The reason I'm thinking about this, for the superhumans, we use NFT for voting.
Cool.
And we use Galaxy, and then we can have weighted voting depending on what level you are at.
Gotcha.
So if we could find a way of staking it, that would be cool.
I see. So is that level represented as a different collection, or is it an attribute inside of a single collection?
I guess they're all different names. So, for example, we have Master, Recruit, and Superhuman NFTs. So they're all different. So I guess it's 3 different collections.
Gotcha. So like on OpenSea, is it in the same collection, or is it like 3 different links you would go to?
I'm not sure. Hey guys, do you know whether it's on OpenSea or not? Because it's
on OpenSea. There's they're considered like their own different collections.
Cool. So that's actually pretty easy to work with. We could very easily set up 3 different pools with different reward rates, so that depending on which token you're staking, you get compensated, or your votes are counted differently.
Cool.
Yeah, happy to. What I could do, if you wanted to get more into the weeds on that, I'm happy to like help mock up some diagrams, or show some details on the configuration on each pool.
Yeah. One of the things we want to do is actually, and the reason why we're doing this internal learning session, the UMA DAO, is having like a cross DAO between Super UMA and UMA DAO, and also a cross DAO, and we want to try and build the community.
Nice.
And one way we could have like an introductory kind of NFT that people can then have and stake it, and the longer they stake it, the more that they will receive. Right. So it gives them another reason to hang around.
Yeah, that's nice. And maybe the KPI is something that's relevant to the integration of those communities. Yeah, that could be cool.
Yeah, quite excited by that.
Yeah, that's awesome. And one other thing I wanted to mention, because sometimes this like asterisk question comes up on the NFT staking. Even though everything counts the same, we do all the bookkeeping for who owns what NFT. It's not like a NFTX pool where you're pulling out a random one at the end. You're only keeping track of your own NFTs.
Right. Anyone else with any questions?
Devin, real quick question: Are you guys, what testnets are you guys on? Are you on Gurley yet, or just if I wanted to go in and play?
We're about to be. Like I'm literally in the middle of that today. We need to migrate because we were on Coven, and Coven itself is still up, but some of like the auxiliary stuff, like Subgraph, is no longer indexing Coven.
It's getting harder.
So it's like a slow obsolete that we need to get off Coven. So I'll send you. Go ahead.
Well, I was just saying, once you guys are on Gurley, if anyone's interested, like Superman wise, we could like kind of probably go through and play with, I don't know, deploy a contract or something in one of our learning sessions. I think it'd be really interesting to do.
Yeah, awesome. Pick a use case and just walk through it.
Yeah, I like that. Yeah, I think it helped wrap my head around it a little bit better, and help out everybody else when you kind of see it in action. I think it'd be great.
Yeah, Deadcoin, we can talk about that after they're on Gurley and when we have some time in one of our learning sessions.
Cool.
Awesome. You said you do have like a demo on your website that you could check out.
Yeah, you can check out some video demos now. You can click the link. Let me send out these links now, actually. Chat in here. And here's an article specifically on the integration. There's a link in that article on the integration that brings you to a Coven page that has a live setup of this. The subgraph, it's mostly functional, like you can stake and stuff, but the subgraph data is not indexing. So I'm going to update that link probably in the next day or maybe 2 days as soon as that's replaced. But deprecated demo, basically.
Gotcha. Yeah, I'm going to check it out before, just to kind of get my head wrapped around a little bit more. And then I guess when it comes out, yeah, it'd be sweet to, if we could deploy something and mess around with it a little bit. It'd be just for its easy explanation too, to be able to, push it to somebody that might need something like this.
For sure. That's a great idea. Cool. Any other questions? Awesome. Sounds good. Neon, anything else from your side?
Neon, you might be muted. I saw you come off mute and then
Oh.
I was just had a long, nice speech about how great this learning session was, and it was to thin air. No, I just wanted to say thank you, and can't wait to get hold and play around with it. And I think it's got a lot of legs on it, and we can really push this out. And it's great how the composability of all the DAO tooling works together. So yeah, it's quite exciting, I think.
Appreciate that. Thank you so much for having us on today. Wonderful to chat with everyone, and great to collaborate on some cool tech and some cool ideas. All right.
Did anybody else have any last words?
Yes, the JP Morgan CEO says Bitcoin is a decentralized Ponzi. I just saw that come across the wire and wanted to share it. Thanks, everybody.
Yeah, thank you. Awesome presentation, man. I'm definitely gonna look into it more, kind of get a better understanding, so I could think of alternate use cases and some really cool stuff. Yeah, I think it's super cool. And
awesome. Thank you so much. All right. Sweet. Well, have a great day. Bye, all.
Bye.
That's
Bye, guys.